What we're going to talk about today is intake plan review, inspections, code enforcement, back end, and the 311 call center. And basically this is the heart and soul of getting an application filed at the building department, having it reviewed by a plan examiner, and then after a permit's issued, then the actual construction, which would be the building inspections, and also local code enforcement if anybody from the public calls in where they may have a complaint about a building, whether it be commercial or residential. And then on the return, when the inspections are approved, about actually securing a certificate of occupancy, which is what everybody wants because that's a value issue for them for their property. So what I'd like to do now is just have our panelists just introduce themselves and their job title at this point. Glenn?
Glenn Norjen. I'm a residential plans reviewer.
I'm Scott Tirone. I'm a consultant to the building department. I do the back end review.
We don't hear you.
Just say it again.
Glenn Norjen, residential plans examiner for the town.
I am Scott Tirone. I'm a consultant to the building department. I do the back end review before you get your certificates.
Joe Geraci. I'm supervisor in the town of North Hempstead building department.
Just turn your mic on.
John Niewender.
Shut up.
Go ahead.
John Niewender, supervisor, building inspectors, plans examiners, and back end.
Vincent Malizia. I'm the deputy commissioner of IT, and I run the town's 311 call center.
Okay, thank you. We're going to start with Glenn, who's going to take two areas, which would be intake and plan review. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Glenn Norjen. In this section of the panel, I'm going to discuss the permit division, intake, and the records room processes of the building department. These are the public access portions of the building department in which the initial interaction between the building department and the public takes place. The building department is open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. The records room of the building department is located in the basement of the building. Here we store all historic records that relate to all parcels in the unincorporated town areas of the town of North Hempstead. These vital property records contain the official history of the various properties. It is important to note that the town of North Hempstead building department covers just the unincorporated areas of the town. Each of the villages in the town of North Hempstead has their own building department and records. Interested parties may need the information that can be found in these records to plan for further expansion of their home or to prepare their properties for sale. It is highly recommended that anybody who is contemplating selling their home or purchasing a home should visit the building department and review the property file to see that all existing improvements to the property have the required certificates. I would estimate that well over 90% of all properties have at least one improvement that was performed without the benefit of the required permit. These open issues often result in delay in the sale of a property or the loss of a sale when they are discovered at the last minute due to a title search. Besides the request from homeowners and potential homeowners to view the files, and from design professionals who want to look at the files when they're contemplating additions, the records room also handles title searches from abstract companies. So far this year, the records room has processed over 650 title searches from these companies. The primary function of the permit division, or the intake division, handles the application process. This includes building permits for both proposed construction and to maintain construction previously performed. It also includes plumbing permits, HVAC permits, fence permits, tree removal permits, gas permits, infrastructure permits, drainage permits, demolition permits, temporary building permits, and so on. Commercial permits are required not just for the construction of a building, but are required anytime changes are proposed to the commercial building. This includes the changing of the interior of a new tenant, the renovation of space by the existing tenant, or just a new facade. Special permits for fire suppression systems and telecommunication antennas are also required. Sign permit applications are required anytime a new sign is installed or an existing sign is changed. Each application that the building department has can be found online at the town's website. Each of these applications has their own set of instructions that shows exactly what information is required to file in accordance with the town codes and the New York State law. When applicants come to the building department to file an application, they will meet with an intake clerk who will process the application. At this time, the clerk will make sure that all required documents have been provided. An initial application fee is collected and an application number and receipt is generated by the building department's computer program. The application is then forwarded to the plans reviewer, who reviews the application for compliance with both the New York State Building Code and the Town of North Hempstead Zoning Code. All applications and resubmissions are reviewed in the order that they are received. However, the town board understands that certain instances where situations dictate an immediate review. Town Code 2-10.1 specifies the parameters for granting an expedited review. Situations that would permit an expedited review include the repair of damage due to fire or natural disasters, renovation of a home required for health reasons, like you need to put handicap ramps in or a handicapped bathroom, construction that would have an economic benefit for a job, such as job creation, or instances where an extreme financial hardship would occur that wasn't self-created. The intake clerk can help the applicant through the process of applying for an expedited review. Once the application has been approved, the file is returned to the permit division for the issuance of the permits. At this time, a clerk makes sure that all required insurances have been provided as required by various New York State laws. These insurances include general liability, disability, and workman's compensation. The issuance of the permit is not the final interaction between the permit division and the applicant. The permit division receives and processes all amendments, changes to contractors, and all paperwork that is requested by the building inspectors. Another function of the permit division is to renew expired permits and to issue certificates for projects that had previously been signed off by an inspector, but for which no certificate had been issued. The process for the issuance of certificates changed in 1996. Prior to 1996, the applicant had to pay two separate fees: an application fee to get their permit and a certificate fee, which was paid at the end of the project. Unfortunately, many applicants back then decided not to file the official application for certificate and pay the certificate fee. These old permits have remained open in the files. In 1996, the certificate fee was incorporated into the application fee, and when the permit is signed off by the inspector, the certificate can now be issued as long as everything is okay by the back-end review process. The applicant no longer has to file an application and pay a separate fee. The well-trained staff of the permit division also answers thousands of questions every year, both in person at the building department and via the 311 program through service requests. The staff will sit with a constituent and review their historic file and answer any question that may have regarding their property. In the first 4 months of this year, the permit division has taken in 720 separate building permit applications, 285 amendments, 310 plumbing permits, 380 gas permits, 160 HVAC permits, and another 595 permits that include certificates of existing use permits, drainage permits, fire suppression permits, demolition permits, etc. This comes out to, so far in the first 4 years, they've taken in well over 2,000 separate permits.
4 months.
4 months, right. The first 4 months, they've taken in well over 2,000 permits. As you can see, the staff of the permit division is extremely busy with the intake of permit applications, issuance of various permits, record searches by constituents, and title searches by abstract companies. However, the most valuable part of their job is their daily interaction with the constituent. They will always do their best to answer any question that is asked and to assist the constituent to understand what is in their historic file for their property. A plans examination entails the review of applications and plans for compliance with both the New York State Building Code and the Town of North Hempstead Zoning Code. The New York State Building Code, the official name of it is the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code, but I'm just going to shorten it to Building Code because it's easier. Every municipality in New York State, except for New York City, must follow the New York State Building Code. These codes are promulgated by the state of New York and are designed to ensure the integrity of the building construction and to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the occupants of these buildings. Every 3 years, the New York State building codes are updated. Changes to the code often are in response to past tragedies that have resulted in injury or loss of life. Recent updates have included greater protection against damage from natural disasters, swimming pool alarms requirements, and requirements for carbon monoxide alarms. Other recent changes have been the result of changing national policies. The main example of this is the energy code requirements, which were significantly upgraded in the latest edition. Each municipality has adopted their own zoning standards. These standards are set by the legislative branch of each municipality, whether it is a village, town, or city. Zoning standards generally protect the aesthetic value of the various neighborhoods and help to protect home values. The best way to look at zoning regulations is to say, how does my house and property impact my neighbors? Am I allowed to have a house that is significantly larger than my neighbors? Can I build it right up against the front and side lot lines? Can I build a fireworks factory in a business district right next to a residential district? Or can I pave the entire front yard so that it looks like a parking lot? The answer to these questions, and many others, have been addressed in the zoning codes. In the town of North Hempstead, the latest major change in zoning codes occurred December 31st, 1999. Many significant changes to the code were adopted at that time as a response to the proliferation of what have been referred to as McMansions. New regulations were adopted to put stricter limits on lot coverage, maximum gross floor area, building heights, and aggregate side yards. New codes were put in place to regulate the sky exposure plane, front yard paving, and eave heights. Zoning codes are constantly being updated. These code changes can deal with big issues such as the permitted use of certain business districts, which can impact a small number of people, or with what may seem like relatively small issues that impact almost everyone. An example of this type of recent code change is the new regulations for residential fencing. The old fencing code limited fencing in most cases to 4 feet in height. The new code permits 6 feet along the rear property line and 5 feet along the side property lines. This change has significantly decreased the number of variances being sought for the installation of fencing. It is during the plans review process that it is determined if the plans that have been submitted comply with these numerous building codes and zoning codes. Once compliance with both the building code and zoning code has been demonstrated, the application and plans will be approved and appropriate permits issued. However, if it is determined that plans do not comply with either the building code or the zoning code, an omissions letter will be issued asking the applicant or the design professional to address the issues and demonstrate compliance. If the design professional determines that it is impossible or impractical to bring the issue into compliance, they can always seek a variance. If the issue in question relates to zoning code, the applicant can seek a variance from the Town of North Hempstead Board of Zoning Appeals. If the issue deals with compliance with the building code, a variance can be sought from the New York State Department of State Division of Code Enforcement and Administration. As you can see, there are many regulations that affect your property. It is important to remember that the plans examiner did not create these codes. They merely try to ensure that the plans demonstrate compliance with these codes. This has been just an overview of the plans examination process. I will be discussing in depth the residential plans review process in an upcoming panel.
My name is John Niewender, and I supervise the building inspector, plans examiners, and the back-end review. First, I'd like to thank Supervisor Keenan for putting this event together with the staff, and Commissioner Tirone for allowing me to represent the building department. To start off, These building inspectors of mine, there's 7 of them, okay? And we're charged with the execution of, that's a bad word, performance of the requirements of permit that they were issued. It begins with the phone call to the constituent to set up the permit. They receive the information required, and the inspector is notified. These inspectors are assigned to these locations by section. That's your section, block, and lot, and it corresponds with that area. These fellows have quite a day in their duties. There's so much to discuss here, I'm stumbling a little bit, but the basic duties that they have run the gamut from residential homes, new homes, residential additions, commercial, new structures, commercial additions, fences, permits, antennas, swimming pools, decks, trees. We pretty much run the gamut there. I started here in 2004 as an inspector. Public speaking is not my thing, but here we go. Your permit is issued, you have your inspector, comes out to the site. We've had some previous discussions out here about performance at the job sites today. He comes out to the job and he lays out the ground rules as to safety, the environment of the job, and the type of the job. Next step, you get your application, your inspection schedule, and we move on from there. These inspections are based on New York State Code, Town Code, property maintenance, building, fire. There are many, many different variables to each inspection. Last month, these 7 inspectors, we did 1,000 actions. Actions being court appearances, inspections, documentation, review, amendment review, certificate preparation. So imagine 7 to 2:45, 1 hour in the morning to answer your phones, put your schedule together, do your inspections, at the end of the day wrap up and report into the Amanda system, which is our computer system that logs in all your information, the history of the job. So it's quite a day. Moving on, there are a number of things that were instituted since 2006 as far as accountability goes. I know the inspector is not the most popular person out there in the town, but take into consideration the duties. There is accountability. We know where they are all the time. We know what their qualifications are, and their jobs are assigned based on performance, based on familiarity, and based on their training. There are different degrees. There are commercial inspectors, there are residential inspectors, there are zoning inspectors. Supervisor Geraci is in charge of the illegal housing inspectors and the rental inspectors. We all perform enforcement, sometimes more than what you'd like to see and more than what we would like to do. But that's what we're faced every day with issues that arise, whether it's from a contractor who has no license or someone who, a homeowner that's working on a weekend, so he's built something that he didn't think he needed a permit for. These are all things in the daily routine of the inspector. The building department relies solely on information submitted to us. As you can understand, when you get into the field, things change, jobs change, the plan deviates from what was approved we're stopping the job, we're getting amendments. These inspectors most times are reviewing the amendments. It's a cumbersome task. We are moving forward. There is a lot of light at the end of the tunnel, and it's quite exciting to see where we've come from when I was here. No, I'm not one of the ones who got away. I went through that whole ordeal, and we made it through. We don't want to see that again, and that's part of the culture now. The inspectors are very, very in tune with the codes and what their job specifics are. You know, back in the day, and this is not across the board, but it was just a job. The guys were civil service, and they came and they got paid and they went home. I got to tell you, these guys are code buffs, we call them, that are very interested in what they do and what's new and what's upcoming and how to perform their jobs even better. You'll see them in the street, they're in their uniforms, they're in their town vehicles. There's accountability, GPS. I mean, these guys, it's a regimented outfit. I know we're not most popular, but we are charged with performing our duties as to the code and to the laws. You will find in most cases, and it's happened time and time again, where a job was stopped or there was an issue with the job and the constituent notifies the council person, and then we have a meeting. And I got to tell you, our track record is very good for being in the right place at the right time with the right information and the right reaction. However, we all make mistakes. We do make mistakes. And I'm one that is open to all criticism and accountability. So feel free to email me at any time. That's the best way to get me. Niewender, j@northhempsteadnewyork.gov. And I will get back to you on those issues. I'd like to hear, it's the only way we can keep things going, is if I know exactly what's going on out there and what issues you may have. There may be issues that it's an easy explanation as to why it happened. It may be an issue that will curl my hair this left. Needless to say, we need to know these things. We all sat on this side. I apologize for the rough edges here, but there's a lot to talk about. We work, as I said, 7 to 2:45. We are available 24 hours, and it happens quite a bit. The fire departments call us for call-outs. They are required by law to report incidents of damage and life, loss of life. We're constantly receiving calls from the police department for issues, cars into buildings, and then other interesting things. But what's just come up now, and it's new to the industry, is that we are now receiving through the Building Inspectors Association in Nassau County training from the federal government. And it's interesting that all these years, and meshing in with the culture of guys who really want to do their job and do it right, they found a new resource in the building department as to anti-terrorism and those types of federal actions. So it's an interesting future, and I got to tell you, from the past, the previous commissioners, a lot of attention is being paid to the building department, and we appreciate that. Supervisor Kamen has initiated a few new hirings into some in the future. Commissioner Cronin, he's got his hand on the button every day. He's watching everything that goes on. We didn't have that before. Now, for a few years there, we were like foster children. We would change the bosses every other month, and we're settled now. We're solid. Again, I'd like to hear from everyone. If anything I'm saying is not the picture you have, because I'd like to paint this picture to everyone. The guys are out there. The enforcement is out there. Use them to your advantage. They're well informed. They're well trained, and they're knowledgeable. Okay. In closing, I'd just like to thank Bivone and the panel and everyone else who sat in on the rest of the meetings in the past. It was very informative. And we look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you.
Again, my name is Joe Geraci, and I'm supervisor in the Town of North Hempstead Building Department. I currently oversee the rental registration program, the illegal housing program, and I'm also responsible for the supervision. Of the town's 3 plumbing inspectors. Part of the purpose of this conference is to raise awareness as to the many aspects of the building department. We don't just do building inspections or building-related inspections. We'd like everyone here. Let's do this. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. We'd like everyone here to have an understanding of the various responsibilities that we're tasked with. I'm going to speak briefly about a few areas that, while they do fall under this panel's heading of the building department process, they may tend to be relatively unknown and somewhat overlooked. And I'm talking specifically about our plumbing inspectors, the town's electrical and plumbing contractor licensing program, and our rental registration program. I'll start with the plumbing inspectors. They perform duties in much the same way as our building inspectors. While the inspections they perform are obviously quite different, the framework in which they perform them is essentially the same. The inspectors spend approximately 1 hour at the beginning of each day and 1 hour at the end of each day handling a variety of administrative responsibilities: phone calls, scheduling, filing, signing off permits that they've already inspected. The bulk of their day, though, is spent in the field performing various plumbing-related inspections. Their job is to ensure that the permitted work that they're inspecting has been completed in accordance with New York State and the Town of North Hempstead codes. Now, they, like the building inspectors, like John Niewender mentioned, have recently begun utilizing a new mobile computer program in the field. Again, as he said, it's called Mobile Pal. We feel that by using this program, we'll ultimately streamline the inspection process and hopefully improve our record keeping. Everything will be contained right in the computer system. It's our hope that the new mobile computer program, coupled with other departmental changes that we've made, such as hiring more personnel, will also reduce the inspector's administrative time. Together, these improvements translate to greater inspector availability, more inspections, and faster, more efficient service. Given the tremendous volume of plumbing inspection requests, inspectors attempt to prioritize their inspections. And this is done in an effort to assist homeowners and contractors in obtaining the appointment they need in a time frame that is acceptable to everyone. Our goal is to always keep the jobs moving while ensuring safety and compliance. Our 3 plumbing inspectors work very hard to provide both homeowners and contractors with a high level of service. With respect to our licensing program, that was designed to establish a list of electrical and plumbing contractors who are authorized to perform work within our town. It was done in an effort to protect our residents from unscrupulous and inexperienced contractors. By maintaining a licensing program, the town has established minimum standards to help ensure that only competent, well-trained individuals perform this important work. The program requires a great deal of administrative oversight, and currently we have 1 full-time employee administering the program. Our town licenses approximately 647 electricians and 427 plumbers. Each license, the electrical and the plumbing license, is valid for 2 years, at which time a renewal application must be submitted, along with the required paperwork and the appropriate fee. Now, as part of the licensing program, the town also employs part-time licensed electrical and plumbing contractors, and they comprise an electrical review board and a plumbing review board. And there are minimum qualifications for the people on that board. So we really have some of the best people on that board reviewing all the license applications, etc. These individuals, for very little compensation, are dedicated to ensuring that all the licenses meet a minimum set of standards to protect both the residents and preserve the integrity of their chosen professions. The members, through regular meetings, assist with program oversight. They review applicant qualifications and conduct, when necessary, both written and practical exams as part of this licensing procedure. They also assist in investigating complaints against contractors, and they often make recommendations as to the suspension or revocation of a license. So they actually do quite a lot for us. The last thing I promised that I'd speak about is the rental program. I'm going to provide a very brief overview of the rental registration process. This afternoon, during the Enforcement and Compliance panel, I'm going to speak in greater detail about both programs. So this is just kind of an overview. The code essentially requires that owners of property must first obtain a valid rental or multiple residence license prior to offering a property for rent. And this applies to the unincorporated areas of our town only. In the simplest terms, the rental registration process consists of filing the application, paying the required fee, obtaining a successful safety inspection, and then receiving the appropriate permit, either a rental permit or the multiple residence license. The applications can be obtained at the building department, or they can now be downloaded from the town website. The applications contain all the instructions necessary for their proper completion. And of course, if you ever had any questions in completing them, you can always contact our department and we'll be glad to help you. Once completed, the application and fee can either be mailed or filed in person at the building department. At the time of filing, a safety inspection is scheduled, and on the scheduled date, the owner or the tenant will provide access to the premise so the inspection can be conducted. Upon successful completion of the inspection process, your permit would be issued. Now, I know this is a real simplified version of the process, but like I said, I'll be speaking in greater detail later, so if you have any interest, this afternoon at I believe 3 o'clock is when the enforcement panel will take place. But I just wanted to provide you with a basic understanding and an opportunity to ask questions about any of the 3 topics that I just discussed. I just want to say, to echo John Niewender's sentiments, we've hired a lot of new people in our department, and the quality of people that we have is really unbelievable. They've taken to the job. They're out there trying hard. I realize that some people out there are not thrilled with some of the enforcement initiatives, but as has been stated here already, I mean, we have a code. We need to ensure its compliance, and we do that. We're trying to do that so it's as painless to all of our constituents as possible, because we realize we're homeowners too. We all live in other towns, or some of us live in this town, and we're here for you. So I think this conference really is good because we are trying to give you an opportunity to give us feedback. We're trying to give you as much information as possible about our building department, so maybe you can come away with a much better understanding and appreciate what we go through on our end too. So thank you.
I'm Scott Tirone. I'm a consultant to the building department, and I'm one member of a 3-person staff that does the back-end reviews. I'll explain on the next panel, which is the plan review panel. I'll go further into depth on all the nuts and bolts of the back-end review process. Which we make sure that the file is in 100% compliance before you receive your certificate of occupancy, certificate of approval, or your any necessary certificate to close the job out. Back-end review is the final process your file will go through before the building commissioner actually signs your certificates. And this process acts as like a quality control element to make sure that everything in the file meets all the town and state requirements. All residential and commercial building permits do get a back-end review for before final certificates are issued. And if the file is complete, your certificates will be issued. But if our review discovers any items that are missing, then you will most likely receive an omissions letter or a phone call from one of the reviewers explaining what needs to be completed before your certificate can be issued. Any permit that was issued before 2007 did not get a historic review during the plan review stage. So if your permit was issued prior to that date, we're going to be conducting a historical view on the back end to see if the property and the dwelling have all necessary permits for any improvement that may have been done over the years. Many times during construction, amendments are filed, and part of the process on the back end is to update the Amanda computer system to make sure the correct scope of work is listed on your final certificates. Also, a final fee analysis will also be conducted to make sure that the proper permit fees were paid at intake. And then we will look through the paperwork in the file to see if all the required documents are present and that they cover the full scope of work that was performed. Based on the scope of work, your application, each application has its own unique requirements that need to be submitted prior to the issuance of the certificate, and as long as all the documents are in the file, your certificates will be typed and sent to the commissioner with a recommendation from one of the backend reviewers that they be issued. And in the past, there was a delay in obtaining final certificates, but that has been fixed now, and as long as the paperwork in your file is complete, you'll receive your certificates in a timely manner.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Vincent, and I run the town's 311 call center. The 311 call center was created in 2005 to be a centralized unit to answer inquiries from town of North Hempstead constituents. The 311 service representatives are the first point of contact for anyone trying to reach various departments within the town. By acting in this capacity, the service representatives are often able to answer queries without transferring the call to the respective departments. This results in reduced call volume for the town departments, allowing them to focus on other responsibilities. The one call to town hall concept has put an end to an often long nightmare of calls being endlessly transferred in order to get information or assistance to problems. This initiative has succeeded in improving responsiveness while allowing employees to manage their workloads. The system also provides an ability to measure how well services are delivered for better tracking. Requests for service are entered into a work order format and sent to the appropriate department for review and immediate processing. Those work orders are tracked to ensure that requests are completed and the constituent is satisfied. To put that into perspective a little bit, in 2009, the 311 call center took in 112,000 calls. In 2010, we took in 167,000, and in 2011, we took in 181,000. This year, we expect to take in over 200,000. And to break that down, that's approximately 4,000 per week, and between 500 to 600 calls a day we're taking into the 311 call center. The 311 call center is staffed by professional, friendly operators who are waiting to answer residents' calls, take a service request, or direct you to a town department for further assistance. You can connect it by dialing 311 from any phone within the town or 516-869-6311 from outside the town. We're open Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., which allows for a lot more accessibility to get to information. Pretty soon, sometime this year, we will have access to the building department system. You heard some of the gentlemen mention Amanda. Well, pretty soon 311 will have access to that system. So if you call up and want to check on the status of a permit or an application, we will be able to provide that to you also. Thank you.